and welcome back to another video. Today I am interviewing another PhD student and it is my friend Rhys. Rhys, do you want to introduce yourself?
So I'm Rhys Jenkins, University of Birmingham's foremost Lovecraftian scholar. So I focus on the life and times of Howard Phillips Lovecraft, writer of weird fiction and cosmic horror. But my background's actually in classics and ancient history. My current project is on the racial and political implications of Lovecraft's classical reception.
And you're in your first year, so you're about 7... Well, actually you're further in than me, aren't we? Because you didn't start in September.
Yeah, so I actually started at a bit of a strange time of the year in June. But yeah, so I technically am going into my second year.
So what made you want to do a PhD in the first place?
I wanted to work on a project that both widened access to classical studies, because there's this misconception that it's a really elitist subject, that it's just a lot of individuals who have a lot of money to throw around that do it, when in fact it's a very relevant subject to today's politics and society. But I wanted to widen access to it to as many people as possible, whilst engaging with the popular literature that I myself have been a devout fan of for a very long time. And having returned after a year teaching in Japan, I realised my passion for teaching in higher education. So I decided to start my PhD with the intention of one day becoming a lecturer.
So when you went out to Japan, presumably you didn't think about doing a PhD, like it wasn't even in your mindset, or was it in your mindset when you went out to Japan? Because obviously that's like a big move, like that's moving your whole life to a different country, and then like you moved back.
Of course, yeah, it is a massive commitment, and I had it in my mind when I moved out there to begin with that I would do a PhD at some point in future. I just didn't expect it to happen as soon as it did. So I spent about a year out there, and then it came to light that the University of Birmingham's English department was looking for somebody who wanted to do my kind of project. So I decided to take them up on their offer, and I moved right back over there. I moved back to Wales before moving to Birmingham.
What has been your favourite part of the PhD so far?
I think, yeah, the best part has been engaging with the PGR community at large as an interdisciplinary researcher, because my research spans at least two different departments. So I'm in the English literature department, but I've also got ties with the classics department.
So you almost have two communities you can tap into there.
Yeah, exactly. So double the fun, but also double the research that I'm exposing myself to, getting to communicate with and network with, and through that community, I've been able to get involved with so many great things. Like in the classics department, we've got a group called the Rosetta Forum that has its own journal. I got involved with editing their articles, various reading groups. I know there's at least two that I go to every week with the English department, things like the peer mentor scheme that we run to help individuals come into their PhD feeling as confident as possible as they can about their future endeavours. And then most recently, the both of us have been working on realising the Midlands network of popular culture, and that's been a blast. That's been a massive whirlwind, and it's great starting to see returns on.
I didn't expect it to be as big as it was, if that makes sense. It's taken up a lot of time, but it's really exciting. We launched last Thursday. I'll leave a link in the bio if anyone's interested. What have you found most challenging about doing the PhD?
I am not the best with my time management. I know some people are on the ball, they've got schedules, they've got lists. I'm not one of those people, but I've had to become one of those people.
There's a lot of juggling when you do a PhD.
Yeah, there is. On one hand, you have that freedom to be able to plan out your day pretty much as you want to. You can dedicate as much or as little time to research during any given day as you want to. But of course, in the long term, that's eventually going to catch up on you if you opt to do, the bare minimum. And for somebody who, during halfway through their BA, I realized that I could do a standard essay of 4,000 words. I could cite it, I could research it, I could edit it to a half decent degree, all that within 10 hours. So naturally, I'd start all my essays 11 hours before the deadline.
You're just giving me heart palpitations. I was one of those who was like 4 weeks before I'd start doing my research, and then like 2 weeks before the deadline I'd start writing it, and then leave a week for editing.
I mean, yeah, exactly. It's you see, for BA, you could probably wing it doing that. MA at a push. PhD, no, because you have so much freedom to do what you want with your time. You have the responsibility to manage your own time. You have to take responsibility of that, and you have to become one of those people who's good at keeping a schedule.
I'll admit I'm one of those list people. I don't do a strict schedule, like I don't have a routine because I just can't do that, but I'm very list orientated and I'm very like, I need to do this to then be able to do that next week. So that's kind of how I work.
Yeah, recently I've started adopting lists as well. I've not gone so far as to color coordinate things, but I have
Nothing wrong with a color coordinated list. They're great.
I've seen your lists, Lucy. They are something to behold. There's a veritable rainbow. I have found myself keeping a lot more lists and stuff like that than I used to.
How have you found the postgraduate community at the University of Birmingham?
If I could sum it up in 3 words, I'd say inclusive. There's a great diversity of individuals in any given department that at least that I've had experience with. Every single individual I've met is very passionate about what they do. It really motivates you to be in that kind of environment, because then you feel like, oh right, okay, yeah, everybody else is getting excited about their research. Oh, I can get excited about that too. And so that's 2 words. Ambitious. Everybody I've met so far is very ambitious, but it's not in that sort of.
It's not necessarily a cutthroat ambitious.
No, it isn't. It isn't in a toxic way at all.
I think it's like most people who do PhDs, because they're so passionate, I think they're very self-motivated and they're very, maybe perfectionists. Like we expect a lot of ourselves, so we're very ambitious in our own work, I would say.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's to the extent as well that it kind of rubs off on everybody else. In the moments where I felt, not so confident in myself, or I felt like, I'm just research isn't taking today, and I'm seeing lots of other people succeed. There have been just as many people willing to turn around and be like, no, you can do it, mate. Come on, you don't be so hard on yourself. You've come this far. You've done this well. Come on, you can push through. And it means a lot when, the stereotype is that a PhD is a very lonely road to walk, but I've had the exact opposite experience, and that the road is populated with individuals who will pat you on the back and help push you forward.
So what does a typical day look like for you as a PhD student?
I'll get up. I used to get up a lot. Yeah, it does help, doesn't it? I used to get up a lot later than I do now, so I would consider myself a night owl. I have been for years, and I would tend to get up around 10:30, 11, be ready to start my day by midday, something like that, which, in all honesty, isn't the most productive way to approach things. And then I would be up until quite late doing my research, because at that time, especially during the first 3 to 4 months of my research, that was just how my brain was wired. But eventually I had to force myself to push my hours back a little bit. So now I'm getting up around 8 a.m. every day, and I'm ready for work by 9, and it's amazing how much more I'm getting done. It also didn't help that the time zone difference between here and Japan, I had to kind of readjust to that, which was a whole other challenge in and of itself. So I'll kind of get up, I'll be ready for work by 9, maybe 10, depending on what I've got to do. Perhaps I'll go out for a run in the mornings. And the first thing I do is I get all my admin tasks out of the way. I'll respond to emails. I'll fill out any forms that I've got lying around that I haven't really looked at yet. I try and get all that stuff out of the way before lunch. And then for the afternoon period, I'll be doing my research, be doing some reading, trying to get some words written down. And that's when the bulk of my research tends to happen at the moment, is in the afternoon. Whereas if you'd asked me about 6-8 months ago, it would have been during the evenings or late into the night. I'll usually split it up by doing about 30 minutes of research and 10 minutes of break. And that 10 minutes of break could be used to do whatever I want, whether it's quickly opening Minecraft and having, a click around, dig around, or whether it's just replying to some messages on my phone or listening to a bit of music. I tend to listen to music whilst I work anyway. I like something with a very consistent rhythm that doesn't have too many lyrics in it.
Are you into those lo-fi? I see these around all the time. There's like lo-fi, hour-long things.
I'm one of those people. Yeah, I definitely am one of those people. Minimalistic beats. Just to get sort of lost in, even if it's like droned, even if it starts droning a little bit, it's almost hypnotic, like it gets you really engrossed into your work. But then by the end of the day, I'll have attended, some kind of reading group, a seminar or a lecture of some kind. Generally speaking, I have at least one of those during my working week per day. And then in the evenings, I force myself to stop by about 6. And that is the one definite rule that I have. Right, you put your work aside at 6, because it's very easy to get burned out pretty quickly doing this kind of thing. I don't know if that's your experience as well.
think I do get burnt out as well. I'm also a night owl. I have not tried to change my night owl habit. So sometimes I will still be working till like 11 at night. But I have sort of accepted that about myself and have therefore don't pressure myself to do work in the morning, if that makes sense. I think that's how I stop the burnout. I'm like, morning is fun time because my brain's still waking up. But then I'm like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, I completely get you there. And I used to be exactly the same. Had I not sort of forced myself to change my schedule, then I'd probably be in the same mindset as well. You know, if that's just what suits you as a person, then that's absolutely fine. I found it personally easier. Well, it wasn't easy, but in the long term, it was easier for me to start shifting my schedule. And then, yeah, in the evening, I'll talk to my friends, maybe do a little bit of yoga, used to do some karate as well, or I'll just sit down and play some video games.
Has doing a PhD lived up to your expectations, or has the reality been different from what you expected?
First of all, I didn't expect to find such a close-knit community of academics because you always hear that, oh, it's very competitive doing a PhD, everybody's sort of a bit cutthroat. It's not like that at all. I haven't found it that to be my experience. I expect it to be in the library a lot. I expected it to be quite a lonely experience. I'd be locked away, but actually the variety of the things, the variety of activities that you get to do during your PhD really offsets that time in the library that you spend. And yeah, fair enough, there are some days where you just got to lock yourself up, you've got to get the work done. But by and large, you have such a wide variety of activities to choose from that lends to your experience in other ways, other productive ways, that it's not all research. The research is one big part of it, sure, but you've got all of the other things that you do as well. You've got the seminars you attend to, reading groups, you've got open lectures, you're meeting up with your mates, you're networking.
There's a lot of aspects to a PhD that I didn't expect when I went into the PhD. I was like you, I thought it was just going to be research, but actually there's so much else that you do apart from your research or that complements your research that is interesting and takes up your time, but it does mean that you don't burn out as quickly, I think, because you have a variety. You're not just like, I'm going to go to the library again for the 50th time this month or whatever.
That's certainly the experience I had. And like I said, I started off at a strange time of the year in June, and for the longest time over the summer, especially seeing as there had been no welcome events or anything like that in June. So for the summer, I did very much feel that isolation, because a lot of campus was shut down, lecturers were doing their own thing, people were going off on holidays, people taking annual leave. I was there trying to get on with my research the best I could, but things really clicked into gear when September rolled around and all of the variety just opened up. And the best thing is now, this summer has, we're not even, a week into June yet, but I'm already feeling like I will be able to maintain all these connections and stuff like that over the summer and roll me on into September too.
I feel like that is an interesting thing though, because a lot of PhD students do still start in September, even though you can start any time. And I do think that's almost when they expect people to start, because that's when a lot of the community stuff really kicks off, or they still put on a freshers week for PhDs. So I would imagine it is harder starting at a different time.
Yeah, although on the plus side, the advantage I had then in September was I'd already had 3 months to get used to the university system and to get to grips with some of the facilities the university had to offer. So when people were coming in September, I was able to say, hey, have you heard about this? Oh, have you checked that out yet? And I was able to make a lot of friends through that. That was actually a big plus. I liked helping people out, and I liked pointing out some cool things to them that they wouldn't have noticed as early, perhaps, if I hadn't been there for 3 months already.
Yeah, and also you are a massive extrovert, so I feel like that just feeds into your personality.
It has been known.
If I had got there early, I'd have just been like, I'm just going to sit in the library, and then Freshers Week would have rolled around and be like, oh, well, I don't really need to attend that. I already know what I'm doing.
Oh, no, that's the thing. I as soon as Freshers Week came around, because I'd have 3 months to be by myself in library or whatever else, I decided, right, I'm going to throw myself into as many activities as possible, as many postgraduate research activities as possible by Westmere, by the department, by the university at large. And that really established a firm base for me when I got to university. So I would recommend anybody who's starting their PhD, just get right in there. Attend as many events as you can. Yeah, you're going to feel exhausted at the end of the week. And I don't mean, attend all the parties and stuff like that. If you like that kind of stuff, go for it. But what I mean is more of the networking events, getting to know the academic staff, getting to know the students.
So, moving on to the next question. What is one place or places or experience you think people should have when they come to Birmingham?
I really like going to the Barber Institute of Fine Arts. It's a small collection that they've got out on display at any given time. But I could spend easy an hour, 2 hours there looking in detail at these amazing objects that are being transported back through time. They've got an incredible collection there that I think everybody should, take even an hour out of their time just to go take a look.
I went there recently, like 3-4 months ago, and I was amazed. They have like Van Goghs, they have like Reynolds, they have Gainsboroughs. Right. They have really big names. They're not necessarily like the really famous paintings, but you'll definitely recognize some of the artists, like I did. And yeah, okay, I studied history of art for my undergrad, but like, you don't need to have done that to know these artists, if that makes sense. So a lot of these artists that I was recognizing were household names.
Yeah, and hey, if you don't recognize them, then learn, go and learn a thing or two. Pick up some general knowledge. Places like Cannon Hill Park, I really enjoyed going to, especially during the summer. There's a big old pond in the middle. You've got trees there. They do fun runs. That change of environment is vital, because then you get back to your desk after going out in nature for a bit, getting some fresh air, having a change of scenery, and it's almost like your brain's reset. You've reset your thinking process. You've had that variety in, and now you're ready to focus and get back to it.
I don't get outside as much as I should, but I try and get outside as much as I can. I'm not really a nature person. My family always tease me about it. I hate bugs. I hate insects. I get like heat rash if it gets too hot. But I do try and get outside. And I actually walk to university from where I live, and I always like that 20-minute walk and then that 20-minute walk back. So that's my nature. What is one piece of advice you would give to future PhD students?
Pace yourself. Don't rush things. And I know that's kind of silly to say, because you think starting your PhD, I've got 3 years to do this. It's very easy to get caught up in a cycle of, I'm not doing good enough, or that imposter, the infamous imposter syndrome that you hear banded around a lot. And yeah, that happens. But the important thing is that you don't rush. If it feels like you're having an unproductive day, you be kind to yourself and you turn your attention to being productive in other ways, in other areas of your life. If you've got some washing that needs done, go and do that. Step back from your work, go and do that. If you've got a shop that needs doing, go do that. Pick up some nice, bit of nice chocolate or nice fruit when you go out. Pick up something, one of your favorite foods. It does make your day a lot better, and you're able to return to your work a little later, having refreshed your mind. And yeah, I'd say that's the main thing I'd recommend. Pace yourself.
So if you do have a question for Rhys or a question for me, feel free to look us on social media or leave a comment on this video, and I'll pass any questions along to Rhys if I get them. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
Honestly, no, thanks for bringing me on here to have a chat about this. I think it introduces a bit of variety into my life and into my timetable to bounce some of these ideas off you as well. So thanks very much for that. And if anybody wants to follow up on any of these questions, feel free to, hit me up on social media platforms. I'm on Twitter and stuff like that.
So that was my interview with Rhys. I really hope you enjoyed it. And like we said, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. I will also leave a link to our social medias and the Midlands Network of Popular Culture that we mentioned, so that you can check that out. And as always, give this video a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next Sunday. Bye.